The cold in Banff was so dense it seemed to pierce the bones. Mark Ellison, a mountain guide with over a decade in the park, knew every trail, every sound of the winter forest. But that early morning, something felt different. A pair of hikers had gone missing the previous afternoon in Spray Valley, and Mark set out with his flashlight and rifle to track them. The recent snowfall had erased almost every trace, but not everything. About 2 kilometers from Johnston Shelter, he found footprints, too large to be human, too heavy for a bear. The steps were spaced far apart, sinking more than 10 centimeters into the ice. Mark followed them, thinking perhaps they had been distorted by thawing. But as he advanced, he noticed it wasn't just footprints. There was blood in the snow. A few meters ahead, he found a glove, frozen stiff. Next to it, a crushed compact camera, still powered on, displaying the last image, a blur in the trees, something enormous, covered in hair, seemingly moving upright. Mark swallowed hard. The forest was so silent he could hear his heart pounding inside his jacket. Then, a crack behind him. He spun with the flashlight high, but only saw branches shaking. He stepped back, another step, and another. Then something whistled a few meters away, a low, prolonged sound, almost human. The guide raised his rifle, but his breath fogged the scope. A nauseating smell hit him, rotting meat, sweat, old blood. The flashlight trembled in his hand. In front of him, between the trees, stood a massive figure, covered in dark fur that glistened with frost. Its head brushed the branches. Mark couldn't aim. The roar that followed was so loud it seemed to split the air. The flashlight fell, rolling over the snow, illuminating thick legs, giant feet, and a hand. Yes, a hand with black nails gripping a tree trunk. Mark fired once, twice. The echo faded among the pines. Silence, only his ragged breathing. He stepped backward, careful not to trip. Then came a thud. Something had fallen behind him. He swung the flashlight. A piece of skin, still warm, hung from a branch at eye level. It wasn't from an animal. Mark ran. He didn't know how long or where to go. He only remembered the sound behind him, the heavy rhythm of something following. When he finally reached the road, exhausted, he collapsed on his knees in the snow. The next day, rescuers found him in shock, without his rifle and with shredded hands. He never returned to the park. But every winter, rangers still find those same footprints, enormous, parallel, always heading in the direction Mark fled. It was 6 in the morning when Riley North, a ranger at Banff National Park, began his patrol through the northern sector, a forested area that rarely saw visitors during the winter. The air was still, and the freshly fallen snow absorbed every sound. He liked the silence. It made him feel that the world still had places ruled only by nature. But that morning, something felt off. It wasn't the wolves or the cold, it was something else. Halfway through his route, while inspecting a zone restricted due to recent avalanches, his radio began to hiss with static. The connection to base cut out abruptly. He took a few steps forward, muttering under his breath, when a smell hit him. Sweet, heavy, familiar. Death. The wind carried the stench from a clearing to the north. Cautious but alert, Riley gripped his rifle and followed the scent. The snow was disturbed, as if something heavy had been dragged. Broken branches formed a twisted path until, between the fir trees, he saw it. A deer, or what was left of one, hung from the branches like a grotesque puppet. It was torn in half, the torso dangling from its antlers, frozen entrails dripping slowly onto the snow. The rest of the body lay crushed a few meters away, as if something massive had thrown it from above. Riley stepped back, trying to process what he was seeing. There were no tracks nearby. No wolves, no bears, nothing. He turned on his radio. "Base, this is Officer North. I've found something strange, requesting backup." Only static. The forest replied with a low sound, a deep, resonant groan that seemed to vibrate through the trees. Riley spun around. A few meters away, something moved behind the brush, a huge, crouched shadow watching him. "Who's there?" he shouted, raising his weapon. No answer, just the crunch of snow under a massive weight coming closer. He pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed across the valley. Nothing fell. But then, from his right flank, something stood up slowly. It was tall, too tall to be human. Thick, dark fur contrasted with the snow. Eyes glinted, fixed on him. He fired again, and again. The creature didn't fall, it simply retreated into the trees, vanishing without a sound. His breathing was ragged, his pulse pounding in his ears. He ran for his snowmobile. As he started it, a massive hand slammed against the side, knocking him to the ground. He never saw its face, only a massive shadow moving through the trees, breathing heavily. Riley fled wounded, never looking back. When he returned with backup, the deer was gone. Only broken branches remained, and on the snow, a clear handprint the size of a helmet. Since that day, no ranger patrols that sector alone. The old ones say, the forest hangs with the intruder kills. The wind howled through the Banff Mountains, making the tent canvas vibrate with a long, low moan. Thomas and Lena, a couple from Edmonton, had arrived 2 days earlier to camp far from the tourist trails, searching for peace, silence, and photos for their blog. The first day was perfect, light snow, elk tracks, pure quiet. The second night, not so much. At 10:40 p.m., while Lena was reviewing photos inside the tent, Thomas heard something outside, slow, deliberate steps crunching over the snow. He thought it might be a fox, or maybe a deer, but the sound stopped right behind the tent wall. "It's just the wind," Lena said, without looking up. "The wind doesn't make the ground crack like that," he thought. He decided to check. He unzipped the flap just a few centimeters and pointed the flashlight outside. Nothing, just the dark line of trees. When he turned the light off, the sound returned, now from the other side. Something was circling the campsite. Thomas grabbed his survival knife and stepped out. His breath formed quick white clouds. The flashlight swept across the snow. Footprints, but not from any animal, too big. Human-shaped, bare, each print sank deep into the frozen surface, leading toward the forest. "Lena, come out for a second," he called. She peeked out, nervous. "What is it?" "I don't know, but we're not staying here." They hurried to pack the essentials and douse the fire. As they worked, a deep sound, almost a growl, came from the tree line. Lena saw it first, a tall, broad silhouette standing still among the trunks, watching them. "Thomas," she whispered. He raised the flashlight. The figure stepped forward. The beam revealed thick, dark fur, sloped shoulders, a partially covered face. No roar, no scream, just the crunch of snow beneath an enormous weight. Thomas shouted and swung the light toward it. The figure turned and vanished into the trees, moving downhill. They didn't wait, they ran toward the trail. The freezing air cut their throats as the flashlight bounced wildly. Behind them came heavy, uneven footsteps, drawing closer, then stopping. When they reached the car, the windshield was fogged. On the inside of the glass, 5 muddy fingerprints marked the frost. They drove off without looking back. The engine roared, snow spraying from the tires. Lena cried silently. Thomas couldn't think. He just wanted out of the forest. 2 days later, a rescue team arrived at the site. The tent was still there, shredded, the zipper ripped clean off. Around it, large, deep footprints led toward the Bow River and vanished among the brush. Neither of them ever camped again. Thomas deleted the blog. Lena, still in therapy, repeats the same thing every night. It didn't make a sound, and it walked like a man.
The forecast warned of a severe snowstorm, but Evan McLaren, an environmental researcher at Banff National Park, decided to spend one more night in the small monitoring cabin at the base of Mount Norquay. He had food, firewood, and a working radio. He only needed a few more hours to finish his winter wildlife report. As evening fell, the wind began to batter the windows. The trees creaked as if they were about to snap. Evan lit the stove and reviewed the trail camera footage from the previous day. One clip caught his attention. A massive shadow crossed the frame in less than a second. The camera, mounted 2 meters above the ground, had captured a bipedal, fur-covered figure with human proportions. He frowned. Probably a hiker, he thought, or maybe a grizzly standing upright. But the size, it was far too large. By 9:10 p.m., the storm had intensified. The radio went dead. Evan shut the windows and poured himself some coffee. As he reached for more firewood, a loud thud echoed outside. Not the wind. A deep, heavy blow against the back wall. He grabbed his flashlight and shotgun and stepped out. The snowfall was thick, but the ground revealed fresh footprints, large, human-shaped, bare, at least 40 centimeters long. His pulse quickened. He followed them toward the generator, thinking the noise might have come from there. Nothing. But when he turned back, he froze. The cabin door was ajar. "No way," he muttered, rushing toward it. Inside, the desk lamp was on the floor, and muddy tracks stretched across the wooden boards. Evan raised his gun, holding his breath. A deep, guttural sound came from the dark corner. The flashlight trembled in his hand. A silhouette emerged, massive shoulders, thick dark fur, a wide, covered face. There was no red glow, no supernatural gleam, only the heavy, ragged sound of something alive and enormous. Evan fired. The blast deafened the small room. The body staggered, slammed against the wall, but didn't fall. He tried to reload, stumbling over the table. Then came another impact, this time against the window. Glass shattered, and a huge hand reached inside, searching, clawing at the air. Evan ran to the bathroom, slammed the door shut, and aimed at the frame. For minutes, he only heard the storm outside. Then, footsteps. Slow, dragging, moving away. When he finally stepped out, the cabin was destroyed. The shotgun lay twisted on the table. On the floor, a dark trail of blood led to the open door. Outside, the prints continued into the forest, growing larger, deeper, until they disappeared among the trees. At dawn, a search team found Evan outside, shivering, lips blue, eyes vacant. When they later checked the trail camera, only one image was clear.
A gigantic figure, seen from behind, walking away from the cabin with one arm hanging low, dripping blood. Evan quit 2 weeks later. The cabin was sealed off, and now new rangers avoid that sector because the doors keep showing muddy handprints at dawn, as if someone still knocks from the dark, waiting for someone to open.